All right, this is one of my favorite topics. I've been studying finger drumming for a while now. I'm definitely no expert, but I've just been practicing here off and on for a few years. I want to look at how to practice and how to best optimize kind of some settings in your pads and stuff, and the way things work for me in the Roland Mark II, in the 404 Mark II. So first thing to look at is my basic pad layout, which has been pretty much the same for a while now. I've made some minor adjustments, and I think I'll be doing some further adjustments. So if I do come up with some more stuff, I'll update y'all with the video. But basically, the first thing you want to have is some sort of loop. I would recommend getting yourself a loop rather than trying to start with some chops, just because if your finger drumming itself is not really great, like your timing isn't that great, then you want to focus on your drum patterns, and then just having a loop will help you to keep time with that, and then you can get into chops. I'm actually not really quite even there. So what I've always done is use loops that I found off of vinyl, but we're keeping it original here. So I got this little basic chord progression on pad 1, and it just loops for, I believe, 2 bars. And that's it, which is something I sampled in from my MPK mini play and then put like the cassette effect on it. Yeah, so moving down this way, I have a crash here on pad 5, and then I have a kick on pad 13. Moving to the right, I got a snare here on pad 14. Then I have a hi-hat on pad 15, and also another variation of that hi-hat on 16. And then going up to pad 12, I have an open hi-hat. And then right here on pad 8, I just have this same crash reversed. Looking at the default settings, whenever you load a sample up or record a sample in, you always have gate on. So what gate means is the sample will only play back as long as you hold it, right? Let go, it stops playing. So ideally, I want to turn gate off for all these so that they just play out like a one shot. Okay, and let's just do that for all these. All right, from here, I want to look at setting up some mute groups. Just going to be 2 mute groups that I'm using. First, I'm going to do these hi-hats so that I can simulate an open-close hi-hat sound. So shift pad 8 gets into mute groups. And on mute group A, I will put all these hats just by pressing these pads. They already were in that mute group, as you can see, but just for demonstration purposes, there you go. And then I do have, I believe, the 2 crashes, the reverse and the regular one on mute group B. So now that'll cut that one off, and vice versa, and now I could do an open close hi-hat sound. And that's it for the mute groups. The next thing to look at is fixed velocity. So what that means is no matter the amount of pressure that you apply to the pad when you strike it or when you tap it, it will just be at its full velocity, full volume. So you can turn that on by holding shift and pressing pad 1. You can see it labeled right under there, fixed velocity. And now whenever I press everything, it'll be at that full velocity. I actually don't want this. It's not a preference now. I actually used to finger drum completely with full velocity, and just kind of, when I was doing it on an MPC, I could do like cycles and stuff and put lower sounding or variations of a sound and kind of make it sound a bit more natural. But on this, we don't have layers and we don't have like cycles at all. We just have one pad, one sample per pad. So I'm going to turn fixed velocity off by holding shift and pressing pad 1 again. And then now I can see that I have more of a dynamic range. But one thing I do recommend is I do want my loops to be full level so that they're consistently at the same level. So in order to do this, you can actually select which pads you want individually to be at full level and then leave all the rest out that you want to be able to play dynamically. So if you go into pitch/speed and then you press the pad that you want to set to fixed velocity, and then hold shift and press pad 1 again, you will then turn on fixed velocity for that pad individually. So it goes from velocity to fixed, and then all the other samples, all the other pads will still be at velocity. And so whenever I trigger this, will be as loud as it can be, but you can also change the volume up here and select desired volume that will fit as a good mix for in context with everything else. All right, so one last thing to look at is in your pad settings. So if you hold shift and press pad 15, it'll take you there. Let me exit here. Hold shift, press pad 15. Now these are the settings that I selected, and I can't quite remember what they used to be, like what it is by default. I've set the curve type to log, the threshold to 1, my gain to 67, and my trig span to 3. So this is just what works for me. I feel like it feels the best and most natural on my fingers for now. So go ahead and experiment for yourself and see what sounds better for you, but maybe this is a starting point. Maybe try my settings, see if they work for you. And it's cool because you can actually be in this screen and then still adjusting, unlike how it is with the MPC and your pad settings and velocity sensitivity and all that. Once you go on that screen, for some reason you can't hear anything, so it's not super efficient and effective on making your adjustments. So yeah, that's just about it as far as the technical side of things and how I have it all set up. So finger drumming is actually a very fun thing, but as well, I think it's super practical. I think everybody should practice their finger drumming. As long as you're producers, you're making beats and programming stuff, it is good to be able to improve your timing and play to a metronome. I think it's just an awesome way to actually come up with rhythms that you wouldn't if you were just programming them single shots, single one shot by single one shot. So if you're not starting out with a loop, another thing you can do, press resample and make sure you have your metronome on. Shift plus pad 9 will get that on, and then you can adjust your tempo that you want to play along to. Make sure you're in resample because record mode will not allow you to actually press any of the other pads. So I haven't selected a pad to resample to, so don't do that step. At this point, you can just kind of audition and play along with the metronome. So that's a good practice and just another way of going about getting your timing down and a little bit better. But the reason I have my loop on pad 1 and then I have a crash here on pad 5 and then my kick on pad 13 is because I'm going to hit these all in line and they're all going to trigger on the 1 when the loop comes back around. So my finger comes down from there and then I start triggering the snare and the kick with the same hand, with my left hand. And then I reserve the hi-hats and everything over here for my right hand. So I do recommend, if you're really kind of just starting out, trigger your loop, trigger your crash and your kick, and just practice your kick and your snare from there. And once you get that side down with your kick and your snare, trigger your loop and your crash, try to get your right hand in here and start doing some stuff with your hi-hats. You can keep it simple. Do this. So there it is, not a big lesson. I just wanted to show you how I have everything kind of optimized as far as settings go, and then kind of get you started if you are a beginner. Like I said, definitely not the expert. There's other people to look to for inspiration. Two of my biggest inspirations as far as getting this started was chorus Arab music and beats by J Black. That's really where I got my inspiration from and where I kind of figured out how to lay my pads out and do all that and get started. So all right, till y'all next time. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave comments on anything.